What's fresh, everyone? Inky here on Inked Up News. We've got some fresh content hot off the press. Inkopolis Square is getting added to the train destinations on February 22nd, which lands on a Thursday. I find this very odd, since as long as my records are straight, Nintendo tends to release things on the weekends, so everyone can play it. The gameplay mechanics for this new DLC are way different than the hero modes and extras we're used to. Our main objective this time is to climb up the Spire of Order, even though we have no clue what is awaiting us up there. This reminds me of the last section of gameplay in Octo Expansion, where we had to move through the phases to reach the end to fight Agent 3 and Newz. Like the Splatoon 2 DLC again, Side Order was also intended to play over and over, allowing replayability for players and those who want to potentially speedrun it or just want to experience it all over again. There are three major components to this gameplay: floor selection, color chip enhancement, and objective completion. Enough of me rambling, let's get started. Starting off with floor selection. Since we have to use an elevator to get to the top of the Spire of Order, we can only ascend one floor at a time, each floor having 3 difficulty levels. This, once again, reminds me of Octo Expansion, where we had weapon selection, each one more difficult than the last, but giving more points. The conditions we know of for each level is destroying portals enemies come out of, chasing enemies and defeating them, and guiding a ball. Let's start off with the first one. Destroying portals that enemies come out of is an entirely new concept for me. I do not remember anything similar to this in any of the other games. The second one, facing enemies, reminds me of the Tentacooks in Splatoon 2 that we had to chase down, but there's multiple running around that you have to kill. Last one that was mentioned was guiding a ball. Nintendo, why did you have to bring back the infamous 8-ball? Although it is not mentioned, we can see what looks to be a form of splat zones, at least I can assume. Well, we've selected our level, now let's move on and see what comes next. Next up, we got color chip enhancement. Right off the bat, this reminds me of Alterna's form of enhancement that was used in Splatoon 3's story mode. Each difficulty has a different color chip, each color chip serving for a different purpose. From what I could see when I paused the trailer, the color chips are separated into segments. I will explain them right now. The red chips deal with power, the purple ones give support, orange chips extend our range, blue ones increase mobility, yellow and green chips increase our luck, and teal chips help with the pearly drone. We can customize our chip palette however we want, almost like the specials attached to our Inklings or Octolings clothing that help us in Turf Wars. It is also noted that the more color chips you have, the more colorful and vibrant our ink gets. That's it for the color chips, on to completing those objectives. Finally, we've reached objective completion. This is where Nintendo got rough on us. As we ascend up the spire, the enemies obviously will block our path, getting harder and harder as we go on. If we die, or fail to complete an objective, we have to start from ground zero. Even worse, all our color chips are stolen from us. Imagine being on the final floor of this Spire of Order, and then you die. And you get sent to the bottom. You have to start all over again. Think how utterly raged you'd be at this. Well, this is what'll happen if you manage to get really far, and then you screw up on a tiny little thing. Octo Expansion, although hard in itself, repetitive quickly, especially if you weren't good at Octo Expansion, then prepare to get raged with this DLC. The one benefit to this is that all our color chips will become currency, also known as pearls. We can use pearls to obtain buffs for our character. We can get more lives and other things too. It is to be noted that these hacks added to our character are done by none other than Marina, since her logo is on the hacking screen. All these 3 steps must be done over and over to conquer, expire, and reach the top. We can also obtain replica gear and weapons to use in the Splatlands once we're done in Inkopolis Square. And that's all for the information we've received for now. Side order is looking fresh and orderly, and despite my doubts and questions, I'm sure it'll all be answered once we get the DLC in our own 2 hands. Well, that's a wrap for this issue of Inked Up News. I do not guarantee that I will ever make another one of these. Have a splattastic day, and don't forget to stay fresh!